My mother was a high priestess. I never knew my father. My father's brothers lived in the hills. My home was a Supiranu. My mother conceived me and bore me in secret. She placed me in a sealed basket and cast me into the river. The river flow carried me down. Akki the water drawer found me as he dipped his pail. Akki brought me up as his son. He put me to work in a garden, and as I worked, the goddess Ishtar loved me. I am Sargon, son of a water drawer, conqueror of the black-haired people, an emperor of the four corners of the universe. That was Sargon's birth legend, who was an Akkadian, a Semitic ethnicity who are ancestors of the Arabic, Aramaic, and Hebrew people of today. The name Semitic is because of the Bible, where they are the sons of Shem, son of Noah. The Akkadians had only arrived in Mesopotamia about 400 years before Sargon and coexisted with the original inhabitants while living due north from them and working in many of their cities. The latter called themselves Sagiga, meaning black-haired, the name for an ethnicity of unknown origin, but plausibly Anatolia or the Indo-European steppe. The Akkadian name for them was Sumerians. Sargon is believed to have been born between 2380 and 2360 BC, a time in which the city-states of Sumer were going through a process of unification. King Eannatum had unified many of the cities, making a proto-kingdom, but the unity was very fragile. The one to achieve it would be King Lugal-Sagesi of Umma around 2350 BC. His name means something along the lines of anointed big lad. He defeated Urukagina, the only rival strong enough to face him, conquering most of the cities, but there was only one enemy left: King Ursababa of Kish. At the time, young Sargon was having countless days of hard work as a gardener and irrigator, earning the appreciation of the Sumerians. The legends say that Sargon was one day blessed by Ishtar, goddess of love and war, the Akkadian name for the Uruk goddess Inanna. He ended up appointed as cupbearer of Ursababa, a position that meant a great status and trust from the king himself, whose poisoning was quite common at the time. The problem started when Sargon had a dream in which a woman drowned Ursababa in a bloody river, and out of loyalty told the king about it. He described the woman as high as the heavens and as broad as the earth. Was he talking about lean beef patty? The lady in the dream was Ishtar, who they all knew had favored the young man over others. The king came to the conclusion that Sargon was planning his demise. Maybe he would have realized that if Sargon actually wanted to, well, let's say he would have been gone from our world already. He ordered his head smith to end his life in secret, but the plan failed, and then sent Sargon to Lugal-Sagesi with a peace letter. But that wasn't what was carved in the letter. It was actually a request for the other king to take Sargon's life. When Big Lad Sagesi met him and read the letter, he ignored it. Instead, he told Sargon about his dream of unifying all of the Sumerian plains under one banner, allowing for an era of prosperity and peace, and offered him to join the cause. Sargon immediately said yes. We don't really know if he helped Sagesi to overthrow the king of Kish or if he accomplished it by military means himself, but if he did help, young Sargon would have joined the Sumerian ranks as a soldier. Ursababa ran away from Sumer in the 2340s BC, and thus the first true kingdom of Sumeria was born, making Uruk into the capital. Sargon Sargon will have been an ally of the Sumerians for many years, gaining military and political experience, and due to his popularity and to the fact that he knew loads of people from the royal palace, he became the king of Kish. It is at this time that he probably changed his name, cause Sargon is a recent translation of the Akkadian name Sharuken, meaning something along the lines of true king. His original name was probably a different one. All of what I've told you until now is unfortunately legendary tales. All of the info we have about the true king before he became king is based on stories that vary in a way or another. It should all be taken with a grain of salt. He always made sure that people knew he was the son of a gardener, which is probably a smart political trick to be relatable to the commoners, both Akkadian and Sumerian, since the previous rulers had pretended to be of royal blood or descendant from the gods, like Gilgamesh, who was said to be 2 parts god and 1 part mortal. But what I will tell you now is no mere legend, is the history of the earliest known man to rule over an empire. The reason why him and Lugal-Sagesi waged war against Tishota is unknown, but one source says that it's because he had an affair with the king's wife. That wasn't his brightest decision. Considering how much his masculinity has been praised in tablets, it's fair to say that there were many women who would have loved to have an adventure with him. But no, he had to get in trouble with the most powerful man in the Sumerian plains, although the other sources say that it was due to the plebes being mistreated by the Sumerian rulers. But either way, they faced Tishota with pikemen, swordsmen, archers, and chariots. It is likely that when the army of Uruk approached the men of Kish in battle, they would have been hit by plenty of arrows way before they were in range for common bows. That was the first innovation of the Akkadian armament, the composite bow. It's a bit hard to start with the right foot when the enemy archers have twice the range that yours have. It was said that 5,400 men ate in front of Sargon every day, which implies that a fair amount of his army ate a surplus of food, besides thousands of mercenaries that he paid, granting him an advantage in war for a great cost of resources. This, together with siege techniques to surpass the stone walls, allowed him to get victory after victory in a long row, slaying 50 governors of Sumer, which says a lot about his political views. Reducing the size of the state will minimize the state expenses, which means that Sargon was clearly a minarchist. So, man, I need to stop digressing. During the siege of Uruk, he managed to destroy the walls of the city, defeating Lugal-Sagesi in battle and imprisoning him, continuing to conquer Ur, Lagash, and Umma until he reached the Persian Gulf. Once he did, he bathed in it, washing the red stains from his weapons as a symbolic culmination to his conquest, becoming the ruler of the Sumerians in 2334 BC. He then came back to Lugal-Sagesi, taking him to the gates of Nippur, the temple of the great god Enlil, where he was most certainly given an end. In the following months, he established his rule over the cities that had previously been unified by the Big Lad. Many Sumerian kings bowed down to his rule to keep their role and their heads, and Sargon's closest men ruled the other cities and important positions of government, making Akkadian into the official language that was obviously inspired by the Sumerian cuneiform. He ensured that he was blessed by Enlil and Anu, and he will always say that his conquests and victories were given to him by the gods and not a consequence of his mortal actions, saying that he was merely a sheep for the gods, becoming popular within the religious people of the land. He made the city of Akkad into the capital, with Ishtar as his patron deity, although we don't know if he founded the city or just improved it. But he did found the legendary city of Babylon. The ruins of Akkad are yet to be found, but they will probably look like the oldest buildings of Babylon. His conquest will continue around 2330, when he will attack the lands of Elam, taking the city-state of Susa. He later came back to conquer some more territories, like Anshan, and reinforce his control. He then spread the domain north through cities of the Fertile Crescent. Some of them were gained by force, like Simurum and Kasalu, the latter of which was said to have been sieged to the point that there was nothing left. Which sounds about right, cause to this day we don't know where the heck Kasalu is, but cities like Ashur, ancestors of the Assyrian Empire, Tutul, Mari and Ebla, will be gained through diplomacy. In the case of Ashur, he married a princess, and the last ones were gained through humbly showing respects to the god Dagon and being blessed by him, incorporating the cities into his domain, which is only but one of the many proofs that Sargon's intellect was way higher than his ego. Something unusual within all of the freaking rulers that came after him. He then invaded the lands of the Levant, like Yarmouth and then Amanus in south-central Anatolia, thus earning access to the Mediterranean Sea. And it is said that he reached the island of Kaftor, which is either Crete or Cyprus. He amounted a total of 34 victories, many of them achieved thanks to one of the earliest uses of the phalanx formation, which will be characteristic of the Bronze and Iron Age empires. Like the legends say, he ruled from the Lower Sea to the Upper Sea over many different cultures. Therefore, he is the first person to establish the form of rule that we now identify as an empire, the most popular ruling system in the history of mankind, until the Great War happened and the last ones got hit really hard. During his imperial control, he improved irrigation systems, remade roads for commerce, allowed all ethnic groups to trade and strengthened the economy, and he was relatively tolerant with varieties of faith and languages. He also appointed his daughter Enheduanna as the high priestess of the moon god Nana, patron of Ur, who wrote many religious texts and poetry, who is actually the earliest author to be known by name. Sargon ruled from 30 to 54 years, reaching an impressively long age. This may or may not be related to his life as a worker and warrior ruler, joining his men in formation, being as vulnerable to an arrow strike as any other man. Maybe that's what happened. He took an arrow to the knee and then became a politics YouTuber. Hey Sargon, if you're watching this, feel free to turn on the Akkadian subtitles. And now that you're checking for the Akkadian subtitles, why don't you use this opportunity to like the video and subscribe? After Sargon's passing around 2279, his second son, Rimush, took the throne, having to deal with the many revolts due to famine and the former emperor's passing, especially in summer. After him, his brother Manishtushu became emperor after him, who made military campaigns to expand the empire, and he was succeeded by his son Naram-Sin from 2255, who would reach a military prowess similar to Sargon. This one is believed to be the same as Nimrod from the Bible, probably the one responsible for commissioning the construction of the Tower of Babel in Babylon. This prick tried to build a big tower, and now I have to know how to say hello in 20 languages. Guten Morgen, ich bin ein Panzerkampfwagen. The empire will last another century, until being conquered by the Gutians and struck by a major drought in the 22nd century, suffering the same fate as the old kingdom of Egypt at the time. The following centuries will see a revolution of the Sumerian people against the Gutians, giving birth to the Neo-Sumerian Empire, but that will be the topic for another episode. To say that Sargon was great is an understatement, for his skills and charisma are not only impressive for his time, but probably for today's standards as well. 4,000 years later, there is something he once said. I cut through mountains with peaks of copper. Many times I ascended the upper mountains and traversed the lower mountains. 3 times I navigated the entire ocean, and the black-haired people I conquered. If someone were to rule after me, may he go through what I have, may he go where I have gone, and may he rule over the black-haired people. Sargon's feats are not attributed to being of royal blood, being divine, to luck, or any of that. It doesn't matter what you were born as, or who you are, for if you go through what he went through, and work as smart as he did, well, maybe that's all it takes to be great. That's it, now you know that if anybody asks, Sargon was the son of a farmer, the gods obviously gave him his empire, he didn't do any horrible things to the big lad, and that nothing happened in 1999 in Tiana. I gotta go. Ciao!